Welcome to I'm Your Target Demographic and welcome to Comic Fights. This week we have an interesting one in a scenario I don't think we've ever done, which is an uneven fight. Maybe we've done 2-on-1, but we've never done 4-on-1. So today we have Lex Luthor from DC Comics versus the Fantastic Four from Marvel Comics. Now you might be thinking, this is not a fair fight. The Fantastic Four are incredibly powerful and they have powers where Lex Luthor doesn't. So how could this be an even fight? Let's start with what Lex Luthor brings to the table. For this scenario, we're saying that Lex Luthor has basically unlimited money. That in the DC universe, he's one of the richest men. He has all of these resources at his disposal. So when we say that it's the Fantastic Four versus Lex Luthor, it's really versus anything that Lex Luthor can pay for. So we're talking mercenaries, we're talking all sorts of stuff. So in this fight, we're going to have to consider who he can tap into to fight this fight for him. So basically, anyone is on the table as long as they reside on Earth in our continuity. So he's not going to use his resources to call Darkseid. You know, he's like, think anyone that's on Earth, and if you want to be true to the story, anyone that will take money to fight. That's who he has access to. And if you wanted to, or if you think it'll play into this fight, he also has a enhanced suit which he can wear, which allows him to go toe-to-toe with people like Superman. So if he wanted to actually be on the ground and fight this, you know, on his own, he could. So that's what Lex Luthor brings. So really, the story here is, what will Lex Luthor have to do to defeat the Fantastic Four? And to know that, we have to talk about the Fantastic Four. So let's start with the leader of the Fantastic Four, Reed Richards. Reed Richards is a genius, meaning that he can come up with inventions and solutions to solve all of this and to even defeat Lex Luthor or figure out how to, you know, stop Lex Luthor's money flow. He could figure out anything. He's a genius. But he will need time. In terms of powers, Reed Richards was granted flexibility, the ability to stretch and elongate and change his body, which means he's basically immune to things like bullets, explosions, slices. He is just rubber. He can also change shape. He can rebound things back at the people that, you know, if someone throws something at him, he can shoot it back to them. He's basically impervious to damage in the traditional sense. Offensively, he can also bind and hold people, sometimes incredibly powerful villains he's been able to hold. We also have the Invisible Woman, and we don't want to undersell how powerful Sue Storm is. That on the outside, she can turn invisible, but this energy that she harnesses can also be used as a force field, which is immensely powerful. But this force field, she can control the size and shape of, and she can actually create a force field inside of someone and then expand it so that it rips them apart. She could do it inside their brain and give them an aneurysm. She is incredibly powerful. So someone will have to figure out how to get through that force field and take Sue Storm out before she pops him. Next up, we have the Thing, which is maybe actually the weakest member of the Fantastic Four, in that the Thing, though he's made of rock, is not immune to damage. That there are certain metals and weapons in the Marvel Universe that are able to hurt him. So in the DC Universe, there's probably some sort of equivalent that can chip away at his rock being or melt, or there's different ways you could take out the Thing. He is strong, he is durable, but he's not impervious. And lastly, we have the Human Torch, who can turn himself into this plasma-like state, which actually means that he's not a solid anymore. So if something doesn't melt, it'll pass through him because he's this not solid matter. This heat is incredible. He can use it to kind of throw fiery projectiles at people. He can make fiery objects. He is dangerous offensively, but he's also incredibly difficult to hurt defensively. But he can't keep up this plasma form forever, so eventually he will have to become a human and be incredibly vulnerable. And something he doesn't do often is he can suck the heat out of the air and make the environment around him freezing or freeze someone just by taking all the heat out of the air. So in the scenario, we've got Lex Luthor and all of his money tapping into the entire rogues gallery of the DC universe. who can take out the Fantastic Four? Or do you think the Fantastic Four will be able to stop or slow this down and get to Lex Luthor and stop him before any of this happens? What sort of crazy things has the Fantastic Four done? So I want you to give your explanation down in the comments. Feel free to get as creative as you want. We will share at least one of the most creative answers next week, which leads to our results from last week. Last week we were talking about Wonder Woman, and we put out the question, who can defeat her? Who is the weakest person that could take out Wonder Woman? So here we have a comment by Killy Fangle, who has been killing it lately. I would go with Jason Wingard, aka Mastermind from the X-Men comics. He has the ability to create illusions that can manipulate all 5 senses. He doesn't have the physical ability to restrain Diana, but he doesn't need it. He is powerful enough to affect telepaths, such as Charles Xavier and Jean Grey. He could easily fool Wonder Woman into fighting a non-existent foe that would never go down, similar to Batman's plan to defeat her as shown in Tower of Babel. He could restrain her in her own mind. So there you have it. Just give her illusions to fight and use her as a hostage, keep her prisoner there while you negotiate with the Amazons. So there you have it. Get creative down in the comments. We'll see you next week on Comic Fights.